Hey everyone, my name's Mark, and until recently, I thought I had a great marriage. My wife Jenna and I have been married for 8 years. She's always been into fitness, but about a year ago, she decided she wanted to compete in a bodybuilding competition. I was proud of her. It was a huge commitment, and she threw herself into it with everything she had. To prepare, Jenna hired a coach, Melissa, who was well known in the bodybuilding world. Melissa had trained top competitors and had a reputation for pushing people to their limits. Jenna was thrilled to work with her and constantly talked about how Melissa was helping her transform her body and mindset. At first, I thought this was great. Jenna was more motivated than ever, and I wanted to support her dreams. But as the months went on, things started to feel different. Jenna started spending more and more time at the gym. At first, it made sense. She was training for a big competition after all. But then it started to feel excessive. She'd leave the house early in the morning and wouldn't come back until late at night, saying she needed to perfect her routine or work on posing. When she was home, she was glued to her phone. She'd smile at messages and quickly lock the screen whenever I walked by. "Melissa's just giving me tips," she'd say when I asked. "She's helping me stay motivated." I didn't want to be the paranoid husband, so I brushed it off. But deep down, something didn't sit right. The way Jenna talked about Melissa was different. She admired her, sure, but there was an intensity to it that I couldn't quite put my finger on. It happened a month before Jenna's competition. I had the afternoon off work and decided to surprise her at the gym. I thought it'd be fun to see her in action, cheer her on a little. I walked into the gym, waved at the receptionist, and headed toward the training area. That's when I saw them. Jenna and Melissa were in the corner of the gym, completely unaware of anyone around them. They weren't training. They were kissing. Full-on, passionately kissing like they couldn't get enough of each other. My heart dropped, and for a second I couldn't move. It was like time stopped, and all I could hear was the pounding of my own heartbeat. I must have made a noise because Jenna suddenly looked up and saw me. Her eyes widened in shock, and she pushed Melissa away, but the damage was done. The look on her face said it all. She wasn't going to try to deny what I'd just seen. "Mark," she stammered, taking a step toward me. "This isn't what it looks like." "Don't," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "Don't you dare insult me by lying." The air in the gym felt heavy, like all the oxygen had been sucked out of the room. Jenna took another step toward me, her face pale, but I held up a hand to stop her. "Don't," I said again, my voice low and firm. "Just don't." People were starting to notice. A couple of gym goers turned their heads, curious about what was happening. Melissa stood there, her arms crossed, looking more annoyed than guilty. That just made my blood boil even more. "Mark, let's talk about this at home," Jenna said, her voice trembling. "Please." "At home?" I shot back, my voice louder than I intended. "You think we're going to talk about this at home, after I walk in on you making out with your coach in the middle of the gym?" Melissa stepped forward, finally speaking up. "Maybe you should calm down," she said, her tone calm but condescending. "This isn't the place for a scene." "A scene?" I said, laughing bitterly. "You're worried about a scene now? Where was that concern 5 minutes ago?" Jenna grabbed my arm, trying to steer me away from the growing audience. "Mark, please," she whispered. "Let's not do this here." I yanked my arm away. "Fine," I said through gritted teeth. "Let's go." "But you're explaining everything." Back at home, Jenna was silent the entire drive. She sat with her hands in her lap, staring out the window like she was trying to disappear. As soon as we got inside, I turned to her. "Start talking," I said, slamming the door behind me. "How long has this been going on?" Jenna flinched but didn't answer right away. Finally, she looked up at me, tears welling in her eyes. "A few months," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "It wasn't planned, Mark. It just happened." "It just happened?" I repeated, my anger flaring again. You don't just accidentally end up kissing someone, Jenna. What the hell were you thinking? She wiped at her eyes, trying to compose herself. Melissa and we got close during training. She was there for me in ways you haven't been. You're always busy with work, and I felt like I wasn't enough for you anymore. I stared at her, stunned. So this is my fault now? You're blaming me for your affair? That's not what I'm saying, she said quickly. I was lonely, Mark. And Melissa made me feel seen. Seen? I laughed bitterly. You know who doesn't feel seen. Me, your husband, the guy who's been busting his ass to support you while you chase your dream. She didn't have an answer for that. She just sat there, tears streaming down her face, as I tried to process everything. The next day, I went back to the gym, not for Jenna, but for Melissa. I wasn't done with her. I found her in the training area, working with another client. When she saw me, her expression didn't change. No guilt, no shame, just mild annoyance. We need to talk, I said, my voice steady but firm. She sighed, nodding toward a quieter corner of the gym. Fine, let's get this over with. When we were alone, I didn't waste any time. What the hell were you thinking? You're her coach. You're supposed to be helping her, not whatever this is. Melissa crossed her arms, her expression unreadable. Look, I didn't plan for this to happen, okay? But Jenna and I connected. It's not just physical, it's emotional. Emotional? I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. That's supposed to make it better? She was unhappy, Mark, Melissa said bluntly. She needed someone to support her, to understand her. Clearly, you weren't doing that. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. You had no right, I said, my voice low. Whatever issues we had, they were between Jenna and me. You had no business inserting yourself into our marriage. Melissa didn't respond, just stared at me with an infuriatingly calm expression. It was clear she didn't feel remorseful, and that made my decision even easier. After my confrontation with Melissa, I drove home feeling more defeated than angry. The rage I'd felt at the gym had burned out, leaving me with nothing but exhaustion and a gnawing sense of betrayal. Jenna was waiting for me when I got home, sitting at the kitchen table like a kid waiting for the principal. She looked up when I walked in, her eyes red and puffy. I talked to Melissa, I said flatly. She flinched. Mark, I don't want excuses, Jenna, I cut her off. I want answers. Why? Why would you do this? She sighed, running a hand through her hair. I told you, Mark, I felt alone. You've been so focused on work, and I felt like I didn't matter anymore. Melissa, she made me feel important. Important? I said bitterly. You know what's important. The life we built together, the trust we had, and you threw it all away for what? A few months of feeling seen? Jenna started crying again, but this time I didn't feel like comforting her. I couldn't. I didn't mean for this to happen, she said between sobs. I still love you, Mark. I want to fix this. Please, let's go to counseling or something. I'll do whatever it takes. Over the next few weeks, I tried to make sense of what had happened. Jenna moved into the guest room, giving me space to process everything. I couldn't bring myself to look at her most days. Every time I did, I saw her with Melissa, her coach, her lover, the woman who'd inserted herself into our marriage like it was nothing. Friends and family started noticing that something was wrong. I told a few of them the truth, and their reactions were a mix of shock and anger on my behalf. Everyone had advice. Some said to leave her, others said to try and work it out. But none of it felt helpful. This was my life, my pain, and no one else could tell me how to handle it. In the end, I couldn't see a way forward. The trust was gone, shattered into pieces I couldn't put back together. Jenna begged me to reconsider, but my mind was made up. I filed for divorce a month after I walked into that gym. The process was brutal. Jenna tried to fight for a larger share of our assets, claiming that my emotional neglect had driven her to the affair. Her lawyer was aggressive, but so was mine. In the end, we settled, and while I took a financial hit, I was grateful to finally be free of her and the toxicity she'd brought into my life. After the divorce was finalized, I took some time to reflect. I moved out of our house, too many memories, and into a smaller place closer to my office. I threw myself into work, not just as a distraction, but as a way to rebuild. Slowly, I started to feel like myself again. One unexpected outcome was the gym itself. I'd always seen it as Jenna's thing, but after everything, I started going there for my own reasons. Lifting weights, running, pushing myself, it became my therapy. The irony wasn't lost on me, but it helped more than I expected. Looking back, I've realized that love isn't enough to sustain a marriage. It takes trust, communication, and a willingness to face challenges together. Jenna and I lost that somewhere along the way, and while I'm still angry about what she did, I've come to accept that we weren't right for each other anymore. If I've learned anything, it's that you can't control someone else's choices. You can only control how you respond to them. Jenna made her decision, and while it hurt, it also gave me a chance to start over. To anyone reading this, my advice is simple. Pay attention to the red flags. Don't ignore them because you're afraid of what they might mean. And if someone betrays you, don't let it destroy you. Take the time to heal, to reflect, and to move forward on your own terms. As for me, I'm still figuring things out. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm hopeful, and for now, that's enough. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have given her a second chance, or was walking away the right choice? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts.